Can you beat Spider-Man 2 without taking damage? I don't know, which is why we're gonna find out. Every game, every movie has led to this moment. But before I partake in this challenge, there are some ground rules that need to be established. The biggest ball breaker in this video will be that I will be attempting this challenge on the hardest difficulty, Spectacular. The difficulty states that the enemies will be a lot more stronger and more aggressive, making this challenge a literal nightmare. The rules will be plain and simple. If I take even a dwarf's dick worth of health, I must restart the level. Will my cheeks get spread like people die at a fucking Travis Scott concert?
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Will I get absolutely destroyed and railed by this challenge, playing as Spider-Man in the rough and intense streets of New York City? Let's find out. The game opens up with us relishing in glorious combat experience, one that only Rihanna could recognize. Fortunately, I was able to tell Chris Brown to hold the brakes and my beer and go to town on Sandman in the experience of a lifetime. Not even 3 resets into the game, and we realize that when the bridge finally collapses, this challenge is no longer possible, and we are forced to heal.
We don't get that water.
Oh, what happened? After my tiny caveman brain just processed what happened, I go through 2 more run-through, looking for the glass wall in order to spring to and the ceiling above. However, I could not jump and attach to the wall. So on the 3rd run-through, I managed to move on. Moments after, we escort some of the most infamous villains in the Spider-Man universe. We engage in another battle, and the frustration of this level cannot even be described. It would be simpler just to say that I was the toilet, and so far, this challenge was looking like the fat man at Taco Bell, ready to unleash the diarrhea warmly concocted from within his anus. Prisoner Breakout mission had me literally crying for my mummy. This was particularly difficult, mostly because when experiencing the parry for the first time, your timing is off completely, so it took me getting some used to. I devised a plan that made it a lot more simple. Like, I saved the Venom abilities for the enemies that used heavy attacks, and I took out the ranged opponents first. I used the Venom abilities to close the distance on the opponents, making my combat faster and giving me more time to react, and it also stuns them. When the boat goes through further damage, Miles tries to help those stuck inside the boat and accidentally releases Scorpion, thinking he's a policeman. After we rescue Scorpion, I know that sounds weird, we engage in another battle sequence within the ship. Then once we finish that, Martin Lee gets taken and is dropped on top of the ship whilst it's sinking, which puts us in another battle. Throughout this mission, I'd come to realize that this is actually comparable to rubbing my balls on sandpaper. Kraven then blows up the ship again for the 3rd time. Man. I could swear on my life that this ship is getting molested more than R. Kelly does to 13-year-old girls. Whilst Miles tries to save people on a boat dock, where we engage in another fight. Although I had absolutely 0 resets in this one, mainly because I only had 5 enemies to come up against. And once I got rid of the heavy attackers, everything was pretty easy and a bit of a breeze after Martin Lee gets taken and captured by the Hunters. We then travel to find Kraven, the father of Hunters and Russians, at a nearby base, looking for clues. Whilst we do so, I put myself through 12 stinky resets. Alright. Yes, we got it. Let's fucking go. And after, we find out that Kraven has throat-fucked Scorpion, forcing him to meet his end. We also managed to find out that he's hunting superheroes and supervillains in an attempt to see whose cock is the largest.
Oh, you go slower, boy.
Is he dead? I can't tell. The Black Cat mission was incredibly satisfying, and she is a perfect 10. The missions map was very open and the enemies were very versatile. Some were close range and there were a lot of archers and shooters nearby. My best option I thought of was thinning out the herd by using my gadgets, and when the enemies group, I cluster bombed them with all my Venom abilities, especially the big AoE ones, and wiped them out. We finally kill those stinky ass robo-dogs and the rest of these world-class wankers, finish the mission, and Miles ends up letting Felicia go through the portal to Paris.
Here. Focus.
Damn,
Think
boy, he's
Eiffel Tower.
She kinda bad though.
Bye, have a great time.
Spider-Man and friends then hitch a ride to Coney Island, where shit can be just as entertaining as watching paint dry. All of a sudden, hunters and goons alike give us a greater pounding than any other NBA player did to Kim Kardashian. Things were looking rough, with approximately 22 resets. With Tombstone taken, we make a strong effort to get him back. I managed to use the cringe approach by using all stealth and no balls, thereby giving us 0 resets. Once we enter the factory, we repeat the same method. After our second encounter with the hunters, we end up fighting side by side with Harry Osborn. This I can assure you, he has all 19 inches of venom inside of his rectum. Nothing short of impressive, unlike the next 22 resets. Kraven then captures Dr. Connors in hopes of turning him back into a fat lizard that he can hunt and then kill.
Daddy, chill.
In an effort to prove he has the biggest penis among all humans and super beings, we engage in the crazy fight at the Hunter's Hideout, giving us a clean 18 resets. No. No.
A lot of self-esteem in this group.
After our many failed attempts, we finally get through the level. However, Spider-Man gets stabbed. And well, Dr. Connors looks like a midlife crisis.
He needs some milk.
God, he looks nasty. And then we finally get the Venom suit. Oh shit. Yes. Let's freaking go, baby.
See you, chump.
You know how much I sacrifice?
Did you fuck him? I like being mad. It makes me happy. Look at little Goblin Jr.
Cars there, motherfucker.
We track down Dr. Connors' cure at the Kraven Hunter estate. However, Kraven is not there because he is still measuring his penis and comparing it to all other humans. Fortunately, a battle was afoot, which put me through 7 resets. Although it may not seem as bad when you're forced to play the tutorial more than 7 fucking times. What?
Relocating.
Fuck me. A reduction in your brain cells is 70% likely, and 100% has already happened. You've heard of Elf on a Shelf, but how about Brownie on a Downy? It was clear that my small petite brain could not comprehend the beating that just ensued. After infiltrating the Hunter's Hideout, we managed to find a clue to Kraven's whereabouts in an old graveyard next to a church. We encounter our first mini-boss, and this took us an annoying 15 resets. Anxious to move on? I know I couldn't. The game forced me to sit there and perfect the art of getting absolutely bummed and to learn a perfect parry. Once we confronted Kraven, he puts a tracker on us and finds us at the research lab. Finally, we had retrieved the formula and tested it in the science mobile, but were invaded and tracked by hunters once again. This time, the research lab is no more. We have officially reached peak masochism, and an overdose from insanity is likely. The cost of our behavior is approximately 15 resets. This level was absolutely terrible just because of how open the actual space was. This allowed enemies of all calibers such as robo-birds, shooters, heavy attacking hunters, and even the mini-bosses we faced earlier. Some would throw poison bombs, throwing me off guard, which meant I'd be midway through a dodge and they'd hit me, causing another restart. After, we engage our second mini-boss, which was slightly easier due to the experience we had from last time. However, he had some different combinations and was actually kind of a different boss. Once we defeat him, the place really gets destroyed, and this time, another wave occurs. Ah, shit. Bro, we just got the place. Now, all of a sudden, for fuck's what the fuck?
I don't know what I'm doing!
After the research lab, we travel to Dr. Connors' house, and we find a passcode, which gives us entry into a hidden basement. By the way, I guessed the passcode, so that was pretty cool. I guessed it. I guessed it. What the hell? That's kind of funny. After we discover the basement, we engage in our next battle.
You have no idea.
The backyard fight at Dr. Connors' house was absolutely sick. Also, we were able to master the Symbiote Blast, which allowed us to kill multiple enemies within a small radius. Using the symbiote tactics to our advantage, I kind of mastered them already, so disposing of large groups of enemies was pretty simple and quite easy, to be fair. It took me about 4 to 5 resets to complete this. When tracking down the lizard and playing as Miles, we take the hunters out and use the pussy approach. Squirt all our webs all over these stinky nonces and use our perch takedowns, getting us an easy W. After our black shenanigans, we chase the lizard immediately after the Foundation was butt-fucked out of the wazoo, and then find ourselves in the sewers. Place only inhabited by the lowest of life forms. It's also important that before I start the boss battles, I introduce you some information. The first piece of this information being the health bars. As you can see in the health bars atop, Phase 1 and Phase 3 are a little bit different. It might not be noticeable because this is actually damage taken using only the square bar, but I can assure you once you start using abilities, the difference is astronomical. Phase 3 is way harder than Phase 1, and as you can also see, those little dots bottom left underneath the health bar indicate what phase it is. So essentially the way to determine it is basically Phase 1 has 2 red dots, Phase 2 has 1 red dot, and then Phase 3 has no red dots. The reason I'm actually explaining this to you is because I probably won't be able to show you all of the boss battle But if you want to check it out, you can check it out on my second channel. This way I can prove that I actually beat this challenge without taking damage, because I just can't really show everything for retention purposes, so yeah, get fucked I guess. Moving back into the lizard battle, the second crucial bit of information is when we're introduced to a second attack in the game, known as the crush attack, which I refer to throughout the video as a blue attack or unblockable attack. Much unlike the yellow heavy attack, the only way to avoid the blue unblockable attack is to press circle. There is no other way to get past it. It cannot be parried or blocked. You must dodge when you see blue warning. Okay. The yellow heavy attack can be avoided by jumping, which never really worked for me, or you can block it by pressing L1, which I got really good at, to be fair. In our first boss battle, the lizard then proceeds to intricately teabag our corpse for an intense 20 resets, until we make it past the first phase. The lizard took a while to overcome, mainly because it was the first ever boss fight, so mastering the parry, especially on the hardest difficulty, was kinda infuriating. The attacks in the first phase pretty much started off with 2 claw attacks, and then sometimes he would jump charge you. It pretty much varied, and then he would hit you with a blue unblockable bite where he like tosses you around. After that, he uses a heavy attack and he tail swipes. Once we got through that, it was pretty simple when I learned the attack pattern, and I just managed to block everything pretty much, and this is really where I learned my parries. However, it took a while for us to get the parries down, but eventually I figured out that rhythm was key, and I figured out the timing, and I managed to finally get a W. Shit. That ain't it. That ain't it. I can use a finisher on it? I didn't even know that. What the hell? Oh, let's go. Fuck yes. Then we approach the second phase. Now, during the second phase, we definitely had a lot of momentum. So we got through it a lot easier, but we still took a lot of deaths and a lot of damage, causing us to reset many times. But eventually, we made it through. I should have blocked that one. I was too early again. No! Fuck! After a couple hiccups, we did okay. Oh, that was so fucking clutch, you know what was. Fucking pussy, get in there. The third phase was essentially the same, but he kept on using both blue unblockables. This time he had a new blue unblockable, which is basically an unblockable where he screams at high frequencies, which irritates the symbiote, and then stuns us, and we take damage. His basic attacks were far more frequent, and they also sort of changed. He had a tail whip that wasn't a heavy attack as well, but another one was. He also started to climb walls and throw objects at us, which was basically one from phase 2, but eventually we learned it, and he was more aggressive, and over time, I got a lot better with it, and we ended up winning. Only after a couple of deaths, of course. There we go. Nice. Come on. Let's go. I think this is the one. Oh my god. That's the one. Let's go. I think I did it. I didn't do anything normal in that run. When we had finally cured Dr. Connor's, Symbiote then starts to take a psychological hold on Peter, and he officially loses his marbles. Miles hunts Peter down to try and get him under control, however the hunters are once again in our way, leading us to another fight sequence. It took me roughly 15 resets to get through, and I mainly got caught by gunshots and snipers, but there was one big problem. I would always get to the end, and there'd be this final guy that was like an absolute damage sponge. On top of that, he also had a heavy attack. He was just an absolute muppet. He made me reset the entire mission 4 times. After we finally clear the level, we end up saving a construction worker, who turns out to be a hunter. He stabs us with a sticky syringe. Wait. Oh shit.
Possible.
And knocks us out cold. What the? Miles got confused and wakes up in a cell. After escaping as Miles from our cell, we then kill everyone with only 2 resets to our name. On our way to our next battle, we enter a gas chamber, where we are put into a situation where we have to take damage, and the only way to get past is to charge the generators. However, every second spent walking, damage is slowly taken. So just like every pregnant millennial, we abort this mission and move on. We eventually approach another boss fight, only he seems to be a flash from our past, Martin Lee.
So how many people did you kill before I got here?
I didn't have a choice.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
However, this fight was far from being a flash, and actually had me contemplating life. For this one, we took inspiration from Chris Brown, and proceeded to beat the shit out of him for the next 27 minutes. His attacks consisted of the dash, ranged negative energy shot, then he would use the tornadoes in the second phase, and then he would use sword slash, both horizontal and vertical. Eventually, we dodged them all, and then eventually he would have like a negative energy shield, and then we used that with the Venom, and then we saved up all our Venom abilities, and then I was able to use my Super Surge ability, and then just kill him that way. The main problem I had was the speed of his attacks. They were definitely far more frequent and felt a lot quicker. Like, I got caught off guard so many times. especially when he goes for the sword slashes. You don't know if it's going to be horizontal or vertical. With an anxious 63 resets, we calmly move on. It wasn't even in the fucking radius, man. Let's go, nice. Get in there. After battling it out with Martin Lee in Phase 1, we throw ourselves into Phase 2. The moves are basically exactly the same. However, Phase 2 and Phase 3 are conjoined together like the Venom battle later in this video, which meant there were no cutscenes, which meant I beat 2 phases, both Phase 2 and Phase 3, back to back without taking damage. This means if I die in Phase 3, I had to restart all the way back to Phase 2. Oh, for fuck's sake, this is so bullshit. You and me both, brother. You and me both. Kill myself. There were also times where we got really close and beat the first phase and just couldn't beat the second. Oh my god. No, how did I lose? I also realized you can go invisible and hunt Martin Lee down. I was able to bypass all of his attacks and then sneak behind him and punch him in the face. That's it. Let's go. We fucking did it. After I beat all 3 phases, we ended up in the negative dimension, which is basically in the dream or nightmare state, where we had to fight his minions again, but every time I died, I had to restart the same cutscenes and combat levels. So it was kind of annoying, so I played this one really safe, just kept spamming circle and the dodge button, and really was a bit of a pussy, but the game's the game. We made it in the end, and we finally defeated him.
I'm done listening to you.
Upon trying to rescue Miles, we get caught up in a fight with Kraven. We tickle his pickle and massage his nuts for a while with 50 resets in return. However, we end up defeating both the first and second phase of Kraven with ease. Most say experience makes you age like wine. However, in this challenge, I was more aging like milk, looking moldier by the minute. Kraven was noticeably different purely because of his difference between the 2 phases. It almost felt like you needed to relearn his entire moveset. For example, in Phase 1, his attack involved using a charge or using a heavy attack, then punching left, punching right, then kicking, and then using mines and bombs, and then after, sometimes he would use a flash grenade and then throw an axe immediately after. And then he would use another heavy attack and a blue unblockable attack. And basically it was rinse and repeat. I would say though that out of the other bosses, Kraven definitely disguises his shots really well and his combinations are very different. And with 38 resets, we finally get the win. Let's go, finally. Why was that so difficult? I don't know why. However, in Phase 2, he goes invisible, then throws an uppercut, then he engages the mines, goes invisible again, and then uses a heavy attack. Throws the same combinations, punches and kicks as in Phase 1, but then about halfway through he brings in robo-dogs, and then he goes invisible and then snipes us. And that's pretty much why it's different. But in order to solve this, my solution was basically just using abilities and saving them towards mid-fight, and then just sort of holding off and making sure I block everything perfectly. Especially for the robo-dogs, when I used the abilities, I was able to get rid of them all at once when I used the AoE symbiote abilities. 43 resets into the second phase, and I was absolutely fuming. There was so many things to keep an eye on, like not only the hunter dogs, but also Kraven's different move. When he transitions into the sniper position, he never misses. But just after the 43rd reset, we finally got it. Yes, let's go! Oh my god, that took so long, bro. Peter later gets hit with the naughty stick. With 3 phases, I can confirm for the majority of the time Peter Parker did shove those 19-inch Venom tendrils right up our ass. Symbiote Spiderman was super interesting to play against because of how the moves felt so mirrored. Playing as Miles was perfect because all his abilities stunned him, and I figured out later on that you can use the electric abilities to dissolve the webbing around the belt, bringing it multiple times, rendering him immobile. This allowed me to get off as many combos as possible and absolutely fold his face in. Attacks in Phase 1 are essentially 3 punches, 1 symbiote punch, the symbiote backhanded whack, which was also a heavy attack. After we beat Peter's main attacks, the rest became easier. The hardest part for me was the way he mixed his heavy attacks and basic attack. After 22 resets and a bit of frustration, I finally beat the first phase. Let's go, come on. Then Phase 2 includes a basic attack symbiote slam, a venom bomb, which you can actually use to hit the bell and then ring it again, which is a nice tactic I used during the entire fight. This allowed me to get heaps of hits off. It was pretty useful. Like I've said before, maybe I haven't, but Phase 2 focuses more on increasing the boss's health, whereas Phase 3 makes the boss far more aggressive, but the health doesn't increase that much. A couple deaths in, as well as 26 resets, and I finally got the win. No, oh my god. Like that was the last one as well. Let's go. Finally, in phase 3, he releases a symbiote strike, then a symbiote blast, and then his last attack being the heavy attack, which is the symbiote smash. Phase 3 felt like absolute death. With 32 strong resets, I was losing my mind, but still didn't give up. Let's go, come on. That was way too difficult for some reason. 70 resets later, and I was experiencing my sheer lack of will to live and lack of brain cell production. With the symbiote off and back to being our regular selves, we managed to continuously shit on our favorite cripple, Harry Osborn. However, he has one too many orgasms, getting face fucked by the symbiote, ready to score his revenge. We engage in a fiasco almost similar to the events of 9/11 by fucking up Oscorp in a matter more raw than when I tried your filthy mother last night. We then tear the shit out of Oscorp's labs and engage in our next run. In Oscorp, I managed to use the abilities to my advantage and then thin out the herd using R1, which basically grabs the enemies and throws them around. It created more space for me to move around and gave me less of a chance of getting hit. Sometimes there were too many enemies, so I'll just hop and jump to the next stage to avoid damage as well. After Venom goes on a filthy little rampage, we engage in what seems to be a ship firing a gun at us, which led us to another moment where we have to take damage. I could hide behind the walls, but it would just get shot down. It was then it dawned on me that not even Durex could protect me from this face blast, ass pounding, double dicking 3000. With the tip wet and contraception unavailable, we gently move on. This shit was easy. I think that most that played the game found this fight to be generally quite easy, mainly because Venom is a literal cheat code. He blocks everything, and his attacks do a ridiculous amount of damage, so it was pretty much a breeze. As long as I used his abilities L1 square, I believe, and L1 circle, and got my attacks in and blocked everything perfectly, it was pretty much okay. So we're all good with this one. It took me about maybe half an hour to get done. Is he gonna eat his head? Yep, I fucking knew it. God damn it, man. Just ate his head. Wow. Harry gets corrupted by Venom and now creates a new plan for the world by turning everyone black and making more symbiotes. Peter then finds a way to track Harry using his Oscorp ID card and then figures out he's turning everyone into big black jungle fuckers. As a result, Miles and Peter devise a plan for crowd control by replicating the same sounds that produce high frequencies as before when Peter got hit by sounds that were created by bells. When Miles gets the upgrade, we later turn the concussion blast into a sonic blast. This definitely becomes important later on for the missions. I'll explain why later. 13 resets, down the hatch, baby. We end up tracking Harry to a train station, which now becomes a symbiote nest. Venom escapes, but we still need to save Miles' mum and Genki from the symbiote attack, leading to our next mission. Remember when I said the sonic blast become important later on? Well, this is it. This symbiote nest had a lot of enemies, and using the sonic blast really put everyone on hold. When I did my first run through, it was literally impossible without taking damage, but those concussion blasts and those sonic blasts really worked wonders. We literally only got through with 7 resets, so pretty easy. Harry returns to Aunt May's house, this time holding MJ hostage. Harry decides to turn her into my idea of what every American cheerleader with AIDS looks like. What the shit?
Oh, damn!
Except the joke's on you, because I quite like her, and in fact, think she's a total upgrade. At this moment, we gently engage in what seems to be another boss battle. It was then the game dishes me a delicacy known as AIDS, whilst delivering a warm dose of diarrhea straight to my eye holes. 43 resets, and my brain turned into mush, and I had an aneurysm like no other. Her attacks were as stated. Phase 1 was basically 2 claw attacks from the left and the right, then 2 heavy attacks immediately after, and then after she would separate herself and then start throwing projectiles from range. They're basically like symbiote bombs. And in between, I would just pull on the sirens using L1 and R1 in order to get some quick attacks off, and then I would just use my abilities immediately after and just drain her health. But before I figured all that out, it was clear that I had the word pain inscribed on my forehead, taking death after death after death.
I'm done talking!
Fight this, MJ!
Oh, we got it. Nice. Phase 2 was basically the exact same thing, except I only had 6 resets, amazingly. But that didn't stop me from getting a decent humbling.
Don't listen to those!
Oh my god. Did I get it? I got it. Oh my god. Oh my god, that was so clutch. In phase 3, the only attacks that were different was that she would swing her hair twice, then hit with a heavy attack. She caught me so many times when I tried to pull the pipes down or the alarms and just made mistakes by not parrying fast enough. 18 resets.
Because you lost!
I didn't realize!
You lost the job! You can't pay a bill! That's so loud!
control you!
Nice, let's go. After phase 3, she only really concluded a quick attack where she would leap and smash her hair down at me. Then she would use her blue unblockable ability to grab me with her hair and then slam me down. The way I sort of dealt with Scream was pretty simple. I would save up every concussion blast and every obstacle to my advantage. So all the sirens on the police car, like all the pipes, concussion blasts, I saved them all, then used them in the middle and at the very end of the fight, and I completely drained her health. After a couple of deaths, the game felt easier because I had abilities saved up. Ah, you fuckhead. I can't see anything.
Make it stop!
MJ, it's me!
You always patronize us!
Oh! Let's go. Fucking finally. Holy moly. Miles and Peter then try to put a stop to Harry and manage to go to City Hall. However, Peter gets a seizure and Miles seems to be getting titty-fiddled by some symbiotes. Martin Lee then shows up and helps him. This gives us our next challenge, going in Peter's brain in the negative dimension with Martin Lee to save Peter Parker and finally cure him of the symbiote's hold. We end up in Peter's nightmare state and need to blow up the heart of the symbiote nest in order to rid the symbiote's control over Peter. Whilst Martin Lee does this for us, we engage in our next masochism. The wave of enemies were once again only symbiotes, making the level so irritating, purely because the amount of hits required to destroy them were very high. So once again, the Sonic Blast came in really handy. 4 resets, baby. Finally, when we beat the level, we figure out that Peter actually has Aunt May mummy issues.
This is all my fault. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Shut up, bitch!
Peter wakes up, and then we finally get a new suit. We then achieve every man's dream by allowing us to be encased in our own cum.
That taste. Strawberries.
After we get repeatedly power fucked right in the bum, and anally ruptured and beaten like my father beats me, we stop some local crimes with 8 resets to our name.
Yellow tape around his body.
Then we track down Venom to a symbiote nest. The place being rigged with traps, symbiotes are now everywhere. 7 resets later, and this time, Venom finds us.
Hello there.
But luckily, Miles finds us as well, and saves us like a G. We get the hell out of here, and then we meticulously devise a plan on how to caress Venom's butt cheek hole, but also figure out on how to get the meteorite, which turns out is actually being responsible for turning everyone into a symbiote. After the team meeting, Peter leads Venom away as a diversion to allow MJ and Miles to destroy the meteorite in the research facility.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Finally, we confront Venom head to head.
This is where we became best friends.
Well, now I'm gonna kick your little ass.
Unlike the others, this big ugly black Squidward looking thought has 4 phases, and the last one is pretty annoying. He looks like one of the bats from China that gave you COVID. At this stage, I had approximately 35 resets and was struggling. It was then that I was determined to go through an intense research on how to fist this Mongolian bat. Dying was not an option, and with only 104 resets, I'd say we did pretty good, making it out with not only our dignity, but also our pride. Venom took the longest purely out of the reason that he had 4 phases, each pretty similar from the last. However, towards the end it sort of changes. The first phase was definitely the easiest, seen as the attacks were incredibly basic, and with the gadgets, and now that I was upgraded, it was kind of a lot easier. I feel like I took way more health than normal. With the first phase, it felt like it shouldn't have been 20 resets by this point. It was only 20 because I made mistakes so many times at the end. I was definitely getting complacent, for sure.
Sick again.
No. Come on. Yes, let's go, bro. That was clutch. Funnily enough, this was the most annoying phase out of any boss fights. It took me so many resets. The reason why is because he would just summon other symbiotes that would just launch across the entire map, taking a sliver of my health, forcing me to just restart all over again. On top of that, like, he also had like a 2-in-1 phase where we had to get rid of his armor, then take his health after. So I'm pretty sure it was also the longest battle. His attack strategy was quite simple. He would pretty much rage charge me and then swipe me with his claws, summon his symbiotes, hit me with 2 basic attacks, then he would just use a heavy attack and jump across and launch launch at me. And sometimes I would swing to avoid myself from the symbiotes that would jump really far. And he would use the blue unblockable to suck me in and then go for a finishing shot. But I could dodge that and I wouldn't take damage, so it was fine. But we still managed to die a crazy 32 times, through no fault but that bloody shield. After dying many times, we locked in and got that dub. No. Ah. We're gonna make it out of the alien world with this one. Get in! Fuck yes! We're gonna make it out of Tennessee with this one. Everything is faster at this point, including his basic attacks and his heavy attacks. His heavy attacks are far more frequent at this point. And he also has fucking wings now and can fly now. So yeah, there's that. His attacks when flying include like 2 projectiles and then throws like a bloody meteorite at me or something. And then he goes for an uppercut. I dodge his projectile launches and the uppercut. Then I hit him for about 8 to 12 times, thereby grounding him again. When he's grounded, he hits 2 to 3 big overhand attacks. And then he goes for a heavy attack. And then immediately after, he goes for an unblockable blue attack, but that can actually be avoidable. It's tough to explain. He basically grabs you, pulls you in, and then he goes for another attack, but then I dodged that. Dying in the 3rd phase never really had me worried. It only really took 2 hours roughly, and I managed to cope with it, finally get past. And he dead. I got him. Nice. But the 4th phase is pretty similar, except the attacks when flying include 3 to 4 projectiles that are more like missile launchers now, that kind of track. Second one is the symbiote punch that'll reach you all the way back to the arena, but you can dodge that from left to right. And the 3rd one is uppercut floor attack. This time, when he's on the ground, he hits 2 to 3 big overhands again, then back-to-back heavy attacks, unblockable blue attack, and then a symbiote wave that has a massive like area of effect. And from this, I kind of like get insanely good at parrying and dodging now.
It was perfect.
So, like, really, it's of no inconvenience to me. Kind of manage it pretty well. And then I finally beat all the boss battles. Let's go. I quite literally wipe his face with my arms. 4th phase had me worried again because it was split up into 2 parts, just like in the 1st phase where he's on the ground and in the air. But this time, it didn't matter because I achieved Gamer God status after a few deaths. Oh yeah, that one's for your mum. Shit. Fuck yes. Let's go. Harry is then put in a coma. Peter sort of gives up being Spider-Man and lets Miles take the reign.
Go be Peter Parker for a while.
That's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you?
Miles gets some poo-tang. Then the game finally ends with Norman having father-son problems and using Otto Octavius as a bloody therapist. Well, more like a therapist that wasn't paid and no longer cares about your stinky mental health issues, but same thing.
What are you writing?
The final chapter.
So, can you beat Spider-Man 2 without taking damage? Well, there are actually 3 scenarios where you have to take damage during the missions. First scenario was when we were actually in the Hunter's Lair, just before the fight with Martin Lee, where we're in the gas chamber taking damage. In scenario 2, we were introduced to the tutorial, where Sandman slapped a building on us. And the last one with scenario 3 was actually in the escape sequence with Venom, where a ship continues to shoot us as we try to exit the building. So, there were 3 instances where we could not beat this game. However, we were able to beat the boss battles, and we were actually able to complete every single mission except the 3 scenarios I mentioned earlier. With 1264 resets, and 80 hours later, I not only discovered my newfound talent for high-functioning autism, turning my brain into a watermelon slushie, but also found out that no, you cannot beat this challenge without taking damage. Before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe the video. Don't be afraid to drop a comment down. It helps the algorithm, so why not? And if you really want to check out one of my other videos, you can check out my Jedi Survivor Platinum video. That was pretty difficult. It's also one of my favorites. I'll see you there. Take it easy. Peace. Gang gang.